to Kansas, gateway to Oz. Under the rainbow, this is where it was. Hollyhocks and red ripe tomatoes, hand-churned homemade ice cream. Let me tell you, Kansas is more than tornadoes. It's the best part of Dorothy's dream.
Today Around Kansas visits the Curtis House, the distinctive Topeka residence Charles Curtis bought in 1907 that is currently owned by Don and Nova Cottrell. Next, learn about some issues that accompanied Kansas admission to statehood in 1861. And enjoy a poem by Ron Wilson. We'll end with Kansas Day activities at the Kansas State Historical Society's museum. Closed captioning brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff Progress, powered by Kansas farmers. This segment is brought to you by Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego, just a short drive down the Yellow Brick Road. Here it is, Wednesday, deep into the new year already, into January.
Oh, can you believe it?
I know.
I can't believe it. We're talking about anniversaries that are happening this year, and it's 150 and 60 and whatever years since then. I'm like, oh my gosh, I never thought I'd live to see 2016. It was like I had no concept of 2016.
Yeah. Well,
here it is.
A little bit of a commercial here. This is actually Ren Radio's 90th year.
Is it really?
Yeah. Went on the air in Lawrence in 1926.
I didn't realize it went on in Lawrence first.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's where the call letters came from. LAWRENCE.
All these years, I never knew that.
Now you do.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and it went on the air so they could advertise Jenny Wren flour.
That's the Jenny Wren connection.
Yes. And there's still a Jenny Wren farm over east of Lawrence, over by Eudora.
I did not know that. I did not know that. Well, happy anniversary.
Yes, 90 years.
So you're going to be celebrating all year long?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we have lots of fun things. So anyway.
Well, I was gone over the 12 days of Christmas. I left the 25th and came back on the 6th, and we marked while I was gone, and we'll do an episode on this later on, the 200th anniversary of the birth of General Meade. So we did have champagne in the cemetery. And while I was gone, on email back and forth with folks in Topeka, and this summer, July 4th, will mark the 160th anniversary of the Free State legislatures being kicked out of Constitution Hall on Kansas Avenue. So they're planning a huge, huge event for that, and maybe even events leading up to it. So we'll keep you posted on that as we progress during the year. But make your plans July 4th to be in Topeka, because it's going to be a big day in Kansas history.
Well, and today we're going to kind of talk about some Kansas history, because Kansas Day is coming up soon.
Yeah, one of my favorite holidays. When I moved to Kansas, I grew up in Virginia. We don't have a Virginia Day because Virginia is one of the original colonies, and its history is very different. So to celebrate the day you became a state is really unique, and I think it's wonderful. I love it. I'm going to be out in Oakley that day. I'm going to be with Jane Pierce, and we're going to be doing programs with school kids all day long. But there's going to be a lot of events all over, so we'll talk about those a little later. But just have a cake with a sunflower on it. I mean, do something. Yeah, yeehaw to mark Kansas Day. But it is a big deal. So we're going to share a bunch of that with you today. And
yeah. So, okay.
We'll be back.
Buying a car shouldn't be this hard. And at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego, it isn't. It's actually awesome. Whether you want a new or used car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. Even if you want to custom order a new car or truck, Toby's team can make the deal. See Toby's team at Brown Chevrolet Buick in Wamego. We're awesome.
Lecompton. The name was splashed across newspapers throughout America and Europe. It was debated in the halls of Congress. Lecompton interprets its unique territorial history with 2 museums and other sites. Events throughout the year celebrate history and community.
Make plans to attend the 20th annual Bleeding Kansas Lecture Series at Constitution Hall each Sunday at 2 p.m. from January 31st to March 6th. Donations welcomed.
Spend the day in historic Lecompton, shopping, eating, savoring the rich history.
Tallgrass Commodities offers producers bulk commodities at a reasonable price with reliable service throughout the whole Midwest. To find out more about Tallgrass Commodities, visit tallgrass.us or call 785-494-8484.
Ag Promo Source is a unique group of members with one mission: to help your ag-related business grow. Each affiliate has their own area of expertise, and they work together to bring you advice, products, and services. To get started, visit agpromosource.com. Ag Promo Source. Together we grow.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Regenerative Medicine. Your stem cells, your health, your life. And we're back. And today, of course, we do this in the Dillon House, which, of course, is right across from the Capitol. You can see the Capitol behind us. Isn't it gorgeous?
Still there. There.
Come visit it. I mean, it really is. But anyway, the Dillon House is also a beautiful, beautiful historic house, but it's available for all kinds of events that you want to have. So you can talk to the people here about that.
Have a party for your lobbyist? Yeah, right here.
Yeah, but anyway, I'm talking about that because there are a lot of great historic houses around town, and I know that you've been doing some stuff on Vice President Charles Curtis, who of course was from Kansas, was from Topeka, and you went to visit the house. You know that all the time.
Right down there. Just right down the block.
And I'm ashamed of myself because all the time that I have lived in Topeka, I have never been in that house.
Well, you'll have to go with us. And this is your opportunity to go, Frank, because January 25th, which is the Vice President's birthday, they have an open house. So normally where they charge for tours, this will be free and an open house. So that is your opportunity to go, Monday, January 25th.
Okay.
So y'all come to Topeka and you come and see the Curtis House. Like Frank said, it's just down the block from the Capitol building. Curtis had a beautiful view of the Capitol from his home and within walking distance. And of course, another Wren connection, the house next door to Curtis when he was a U.S. Senator was the home of Arthur Capper, who was also a U.S. Senator. So you had, I think it's reported to be the only corner in the nation at that time where you had 2 senators living side by side, where they were, and so there's a wonderful photo of Capper and Curtis standing there in front of their houses, and then that, of course, became Wren Radio later on, right? Or
yeah.
WIBW? What was
WIBW was on Topeka Boulevard. Wren, when it moved from Lawrence over to here, was on 10th Street.
Okay.
In an upstairs studio, and then they moved, of course, on down the road on 10th Street. You know, sometime we might do a story on the power brokers of Kansas at that time, because you're right, there was Arthur Capper, there was Charles Curtis, there was Alf Landon.
I mean, William Allen White, it was huge.
Yes,
it was huge.
It was.
Had a tremendous impact on the nation. And that's one of the things we're talking about with the documentary film that we're working on the life of Charles Curtis. But in the meantime, let's take a look at his beautiful home. Charles Curtis was born in a cabin that no longer stands on the north side of the Kansas River in 1860. He lived in various homes, and maybe even a teepee, throughout his colorful life. In 1907, as he became more successful as a lawyer and politician, he purchased a mansion on the corner of 11th and Topeka Boulevard, a home possessing a fine view of the Kansas State House. His neighbor on the corner to the north was Arthur Capper, publisher, governor, and U.S. Senator. The Charles Curtis home is an example of a rather unique and distinctive residential architecture, incorporating bulbous domes, Romanesque arches, and Renaissance massing. It is an early example of eclecticism in Kansas building. Though he did not originally design the house, famed Philadelphia architect Seymour Davis made later alterations. The mansion has exceptional chandeliers, ornamental plaster, a grand staircase, parquet floors, stained and jeweled glass windows, and 4 fireplaces, 2 white oak, 1 solid cherry, and 1 of Italian marble. According to the State Historical Society, the house has more intact parquet flooring than any other historical house in Kansas. It was once described as not surpassed by any residence in the city. Its purchase by Don and Nova Cottrell likely saved it from the fate of many of its sister mansions along the boulevard that have fallen to the wrecking ball. The mansion has a large collection of historical memorabilia and artifacts, and it is furnished with antiques, some from the Curtis family, as well as some of the Curtis memorabilia. The Cottrells maintain the house as a museum to Curtis's legacy. It was placed on the National Register in 1976.
Heinen Brothers, a fourth-generation Northeast Kansas farm family, knows how tough farming can be. Farmers helping farmers. Heinen Brothers Ag, selling and servicing crop protection products, fertilizer, anhydrous ammonia, cover crops, quality aerial and ground application. Call today to learn about our extended term financing program. 800-760-4964. HeinenBrothersAg.com. Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
Around Kansas, brought to you by Santa Fe Trail Meats in Overbrook, or visit us online at sftmeats.com. And again, we're back. Aren't you happy?
Lord knows I am.
Well, we're talking about Kansas because Kansas Day is coming up, and the ad astra per aspera, of course, means to the stars through difficulty, and my story is going to be about Kansas.
The difficulties.
the difficulties, because people think, well, the Civil War started when Fort Sumter got fired on and all that. Well, the Civil War really started in the 1850s between Kansas and Missouri.
I'm so proud of you, Frank.
I mean, it really did. Kansas was known as Bleeding Kansas. That's when the Jayhawkers and the Border Ruffians, they were constantly fighting and clashing and
high times.
Yeah.
The old Chinese curse, may you be blessed to live in interesting times.
Yeah.
Well, they were really interesting times.
Yeah. Well, and then, of course, Kansas came in as a free state, and that was really the thing that finally sparked the fuse.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think, really? Yes.
Well, when I was back in Pennsylvania over New Year's, honoring General Meade, who won the Battle of Gettysburg, and one of the reenactors at the celebration was Abraham Lincoln. And it's really interesting because Lincoln, who now is this great iconic figure, this person who freed the slaves, who kept the nation together, was the most divisive president we have ever had. We all have said during one election or another, if so-and-so's elected, I'm leaving the country. Lincoln was elected and half the country left. That's what secession was. They left. They're like, we're not part of it anymore. Yeah. So it was very divisive. And so and Kansas is at the heart of that whole story. So we got a wonderful place in history. And this next piece is a really interesting side to that.
To the stars through difficulty. After its being opened as a territory in 1854, there was no doubt that Kansas would one day be a state. What kind of state was always the issue, and 7 years of fighting on the Missouri border earned the designation Bloody Kansas. At last, a bill for statehood passed Congress, and on January 29, 1861, The territory joined the not-so-United States just as southern states began pulling out. While there was much relief and celebration at the news, there is another side of the story. The Leavenworth Herald took a momentarily realistic view of admission in its issue of January 30th. The paper reported that those celebrating were mostly state office holders who would be drawing salaries from the new government. It was estimated that the cost of statehood was about $400,000 the first year, money that would have to be raised through taxes. The Herald compared the situation to the man who bought an elephant and spent all he had just feeding the animal. But the Herald concluded, the thing is done, and it's useless to worry over spilled milk. So as joyous as statehood was, the reality of increased taxes was on the minds of many Kansans. I guess some things haven't changed in 155 years. Soil is the life of a farm, and for 25 years, SureCrop Liquid Crop Nutrition has helped growers produce abundant quality crops while preserving and improving the soils they steward. SureCrop offers complete soil and plant analysis with cropping recommendations, delivery direct to your on-farm storage, and quality crop nutrition custom blended for your field. Choose SureCrop for the assurance of excellence for your soil. Call today or visit their website for more information. Grain sorghum is one of the most important cereal crops worldwide, and Kansas leads the nation in its production. Over the years, sorghum has been either exported, used in animal feed domestically, or for other industrial uses. Recently, its use in the ethanol market has seen tremendous growth, with 30% of domestic sorghum typically going to ethanol production. Kansas Grain Sorghum is committed to sorghum research, market development, and education. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org. This segment brought to you by Kansas Grain Sorghum, growers working together. Find out more at kansasgrainsorghum.org.
Howdy, folks. I'm Ron Wilson, Poet Laureate. The cowboy really came alive in legend at the time of the great cattle drives, and the goal of the Texas drovers was to get to Abilene. This poem is in honor of the first Cowtowns. One of the first Cowtowns the world had ever seen was the little community known as Abilene. It all began after the Civil War here with the man for beef from the western frontier. A livestock dealer named Joseph McCoy helped bring about the American cowboy. He saw longhorns in Texas running free, and he knew what an opportunity these could be. McCoy looked for a place with grass and water abiding where he could build a big railroad siding. He traveled through Kansas on a railroad route west in search of a town that would suit his request, and when he got to the city of Abilene, he found a place which he had foreseen. It became a cattle shipping point henceforth for Texas drovers bringing cattle north. Thousands of longhorns came up the Chisholm Trail to the city of Abilene to meet the rail. The money flowed and cowboys got wild until the local folks got riled. So in time the cattle trade moved west in the Texas cattle rancher's quest. But in the history of the West, the name still resounds. Abilene, Kansas, one of the first Cowtowns. Happy trails.
Earlier in my life, I rode bucking horses in rodeos, and my shoulders took such a beating, and that was probably the reason for having several previous surgeries on both shoulders. About a year ago, I decided that I didn't want to have another surgery, and so I contacted Kansas Regenerative Medicine, took their treatment process. It was relatively pain-free. Now, after 8 months, my shoulders have healed to the point where I think I'm probably 90 to 95% of normal. It takes a couple of months to start to see results with stem cell injections, but at about 3 to 3.5 months, I started to feel better. I started to have less pain and feel real progress. That continued to increase gradually until now at approximately 8 months. And I'm extremely pleased. I've got full range of motion. I can lift weights, I can throw, I can do a lot of things that I couldn't do without a lot of pain previously.
Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture, represents grassroots agriculture. The state's largest and most powerful farm organization stands up for its members through leadership development, agriculture education, legal defense, environmental advocacy, farm safety, and risk management. Members also enjoy money-saving benefits. To join our organization today or to learn more, go to www.kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
Around Kansas, brought to you by Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. Go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Welcome back, and talking about Kansas Day, we wanted to give you plenty of time to find out what kind of celebration is going on in your neighborhood. And if you don't have anything going on for Kansas Day, start a party. Or you could come to Topeka. Kansas State Historical Society has lots of kids' activities going on. We're going to take a look at some of those. We're going to take a look at just some of the things that are going on. You know, in a former life, we used to have Kansas Day parties, and we would have people just come as their favorite Kansas characters. And of course, the people I know, a lot of Missourians, we would invite people to come dressed as their favorite character from the Border War, like you were talking about. So one of our friends from Osceola, Missouri, comes over and he's portraying Quantrell. And so he comes to our door and he's wearing a blue coat. And we're like, you know, a Union soldier. And I'm like, what is up with this? And he said, how do you think I got across the border? And he rips it off, and he's got this red gorilla shirt like Quantrell's guys would have worn underneath it. They were the best parties. We had Rod Beamer would come as Buffalo Bill, and his wife came as Carrie Nation, and we had Amelia Earhart, and we had just all kinds of wonderful characters. Jim Lane, you know, Tim Lewis is Jim Lane, and just all kinds of wonderful characters. So. Yeah, it was a great time.
Yeah, I lived in Lawrence for a time, and we had a home in Old West Lawrence. And in Old West Lawrence, if you ever have time, go walk around, because there are stone markers where various citizens were killed.
Right.
The house that was a block over from us, the front door of that house still had a musket ball in the door. I don't know if it's still there or not.
And if you go to the Visitor Center in Lawrence, the old train depot, they have a map, walking tour of Quantrell's Raid there in the Visitor Center. So you can pick one of those up and you can do exactly what you're talking about. You can follow the trek. I do tours for Benedictine College, and I did the staff ride for the Command and General Staff College on the Lawrence Raid. So yeah, there's a lot of ways to learn about that unique piece of history, and as you're marking Kansas Day, it's just another thing to remember about how interesting it was.
Hey, you know, I had a thought too, we ought to have a General Grant party.
Yes.
And we have cigars and whiskey for everyone.
Randy Durbin.
There you go.
Randy, yes, we're calling you. January 29th marks the 155th anniversary of Kansas statehood. There are activities all over the state, so check locally to see what is happening with your community or historic site. I am looking forward to spending the day in Oakley, but will miss the goings-on in Topeka that day. On Kansas Day, admission is free to the Kansas State Historical Society's museum, and there are tons of hands-on activities perfect for the kids to experience days long past and just past. Besides activities, there are performances by storyteller Joyce Slater and the Standing Bear Intertribal Gourd Society. Joyce's presentation, Plain Eating, will explore the foods brought to Kansas by pioneering settlers and talk about the ones they had to leave behind. A nationally recognized and award-winning storyteller, she has been sharing stories for more than 25 years. The American Indian traditions will be shared by the Standing Bear Intertribal Gourd Society. They perform for schools, scout groups, veterans organizations, and others to share and keep alive the culture. Events run from 9 to 3, and the museum asks you to visit their website and register if you have 10 or more in your group. Happy Kansas Day! Well, we've got one more Wednesday before Kansas Day, but now you've got time to make your plans. So let us know real quick if you've got something going on.
Yeah. So anyway, I guess that's it for today. So I'm Frank.
I'm Deb.
And we'll see you somewhere around Kansas.
Welcome to Kansas, gateway to Oz, under the rain.
Closed captioning brought to you by Kansas Soybean Commission. The Soybean Checkoff Progress, powered by Kansas farmers.
And churned homemade ice cream. Let me tell you, Kansas is more than tornadoes. We're the best part of Dorothy's dream. We're the best part of Dorothy's dream.
To see this show and past episodes of Ag AM in Kansas, go online to agamandkansas.com.